Welcome to the Cenario podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to get past the headlines and give you the knowledge you can use. And if you're tuning in today, I bet you're looking for, effective, natural ways to handle the stress of just modern life, right? That's our mission today. We're taking a deep dive into the sources you sent us, and we're zeroing in on one major player in the stress game, the hormone cortisol. You know, in a world where it feels like deadlines and endless notifications have replaced actual predators, chronic stress is almost the default setting. So we're here to figure out if and how certain supplements might offer a kind of shortcut to managing those persistently high cortisol levels.
Yeah, that's right. And cortisol itself isn't the enemy, not initially anyway. It's actually our body's built-in energy booster. It's made by the adrenal glands, and it's absolutely vital for things like metabolism, our immune response, and that classic fight or flight reaction. It gives the body that immediate jolt of energy it needs for perceived threats.
Okay, essential for survival. But here's where it gets really interesting and kind of problematic for us now, right? That whole system, it's designed for short bursts. Acute threats like, run from the tiger, cortisol spikes, then it drops. But modern life, the threats feel constant. That overflowing inbox, money worries, traffic, it just doesn't stop. And that sustained high level of cortisol activation, that's what causes the trouble. Your sources are pretty clear linking chronic high cortisol to things like, constant anxiety, maybe trouble sleeping, even that stubborn weight gain, especially around the middle.
Precisely. And that's why we need to shift the focus. It's not just about masking the symptoms of stress anymore. It's more about getting to the root cause, regulating the source. So this deep dive, it's really about exploring how specific supplements can fit into a bigger picture, a holistic lifestyle, to help manage, maybe even lower, these chronically high cortisol levels. It's about supporting the body's own ability to cope when the pressure just keeps coming. And look, to really get how any supplement might help here, you first have to grasp the main biological system we're aiming at, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis. You can think of the HPA axis as like the central command center for stress in the brain and body. When the hypothalamus part of your brain senses stress, it sends a signal to the pituitary gland, which then tells the adrenals, okay, release the cortisol. It's a really brilliant system for short-term needs, but just like anything, constant unrelenting activation starts to wear it down.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that a bit. The HPA axis designed for survival, but we're under constant pressure. So with these supplements, are we trying to completely reset the system, or is it more about just helping out the control center that's kind of overworked?
That's a great question. It's mostly about helping it cope and recover, making it more resilient. You see, the growing interest in natural options, it reflects this desire to address the underlying systemic fatigue, actually regulating the HPA axis itself, rather than just papering over the cracks, like taking something to calm down a racing heart, but not fixing why it's racing. But, and this is really crucial, supplements are only one part of the strategy. It's so important to stress what the sources emphasize, synergy. These things work best, often only work effectively when they're part of a whole approach. That means a balanced diet, getting regular exercise, and honestly, probably most importantly, getting enough quality sleep. They all work together.
Got it. So supplements aren't a magic bullet. They kind of reinforce the system, but you still need that solid lifestyle foundation. Makes sense. Okay, so let's pivot then to a class of compounds that are specifically known for helping the system adapt, the adaptogens. These are substances, often herbs, that are thought to help the body, adapt to stress and find balance, right? And they do this mainly by influencing that HPA axis command center we just talked about. And probably the most famous one, the one everyone talks about, is ashwagandha, often called the star adaptogen.
Yeah, ashwagandha is definitely a big one. It's been used for centuries in Ayurvedic medicine, but now we actually have clinical data starting to show how it works. It's not just a vague calming effect. It seems to work at least in part by modulating GABA signaling in the brain that's a calming neurotransmitter. And it also seems to reduce the activity of something called CRH, corticotropin-releasing hormone. That's like the very first go signal way upstream in the whole HPA stress response cascade.
Wow, okay. So it's potentially cutting off the stress signal nearer the source, not just dealing with the cortisol downstream. And the research suggests it can actually lower measured cortisol levels in the blood and just generally make people feel more resilient to stress. But I mean, that sounds powerful. Does your body get used to it? Like, do you build up a tolerance? Do you have to keep taking it forever?
That's a really important point, and something the sources do touch on later when we discuss safety, this idea of cycling things. But before we get there, let's talk about another key adaptogen, rhodiola rosea. While ashwagandha is often linked to managing that sort of ongoing chronic stress feeling, rhodiola has a slightly different historical use, often for combating fatigue, both mental and physical, and improving mental sharpness under stress.
Oh, yeah. I think pretty much everyone listening has felt that kind of stress-induced burnout that rhodiola is supposed to help with, that feeling of being completely wiped out.
Exactly. The sources often position rhodiola as the one you might reach for when you're feeling physically drained, not just mentally frazzled. And like ashwagandha, it appears to help balance the HPA axis. Specifically, it seems to enhance the body's capacity to cope with prolonged mental effort, which in turn can reduce that spike in cortisol you get from being under pressure for too long.
Okay, so we've got these adaptogens, ashwagandha, rhodiola, targeting the HPA axis directly. Now, what about other kinds of support? Things that maybe help the nervous system or brain health more generally, and indirectly help with cortisol?
Absolutely. We need to look beyond just adaptogens. Let's start with a mineral, magnesium, often called the calming mineral. We know it helps with muscle relaxation, sure, but its role in stress goes deeper into neurological function. Magnesium acts as what's called an NMDA receptor antagonist in the brain. Basically, it helps put the brakes on some of the brain's excitatory go signals. That's why some sources specifically mention certain forms like magnesium L-threonate, because they seem better able to cross the blood-brain barrier and have more of that central calming effect.
Ah, okay. That's much more specific than just saying it calms you down. And it makes sense why low magnesium levels are often linked with feeling more anxious, right? It plays a foundational role.
Definitely. Next up, omega-3 fatty acids. Most people know these from fish oil, good for brain health and inflammation. And that anti-inflammatory action is key here too. But studies also show omega-3s can specifically help lower cortisol levels, especially the cortisol spike you get in response to, say, an acute stressor, like public speaking or a difficult social situation. It seems to dampen that stress-induced inflammatory pathway, stopping it from spiraling.
Right, and again, connecting back to the whole lifestyle thing, while supplements are convenient, you can also boost your omega-3s through diet. Cold water fish like salmon, mackerel, also things like walnuts, chia seeds.
Good point. And finally, let's touch on vitamin C. Now, most people think immune system boost when they hear vitamin C, but it plays a really specific and crucial role in stress physiology because it's vital for the health of the adrenal glands themselves. The adrenals, the cortisol factories, actually store and use large amounts of vitamin C. Research suggests that making sure you have enough vitamin C can help lower cortisol, particularly during times of significant physical stress. It seems to do this by helping reduce oxidative stress.
Okay, hang on. Let's quickly define that term for listeners. Oxidative stress, what does that mean in this context? Is it like cellular rust?
That's actually a pretty good analogy, yeah. Oxidative stress is basically the damage, the wear and tear that happens at a cellular level. And it ramps up significantly when the body is under heavy physical load. Like intense exercise, illness, or yes, even the strain of producing high levels of cortisol constantly. Vitamin C acts as a potent antioxidant, helping to neutralize those damaging molecules, which supports adrenal recovery and helps modulate the overall stress response. It protects the machinery, so to speak.
This is great. We've got these individual components. Adaptogens modulating the core system, magnesium calming the nerves, omega-3s tackling inflammation, vitamin C supporting the adrenals. So now we move into the strategy. How do we use these intelligently? Your notes mentioned something really interesting: stacking, combining them.
Yes, stacking, because often hitting stress from multiple angles at once gives you a synergistic benefit. It's more effective than just using one thing in isolation. Think about recovery after a really intense period of work or personal stress. How do you help the system bounce back faster and more completely? You could create a stack, for instance, combining magnesium, ashwagandha, and omega-3s. So magnesium provides that immediate sense of calm for the nervous system, addressing how stress feels. Ashwagandha works on the HPA axis itself, trying to normalize the production of cortisol, and then omega-3s work on reducing the inflammation that stress causes and supporting the actual physical health of your brain cells. It's like a three-pronged approach.
And we should probably weave in that point your sources made about physical recovery, too. Amino acids, the building blocks of protein, either from food or maybe supplements like BCAAs, they play a part here as well. Chronic high cortisol can actually break down muscle tissue. So ensuring you have enough amino acids helps fight that degradation, supports physical recovery, and that itself contributes to a more balanced cortisol response overall. It's like the structural support pillar in the stack.
That's an excellent addition. That kind of combination can be very effective. Now, about the timeline, because that's always a big question, right? How long does this stuff take to work? The sources suggest it varies quite a bit. Some people might notice subtle effects, maybe feeling a bit calmer within a few weeks. But for significant shifts in your baseline cortisol levels, you're typically looking at several months of consistent use. And I have to underline consistency. Along with integrating those non-negotiable lifestyle factors we keep mentioning, diet, sleep, exercise, those are absolutely key to see real lasting results.
Okay, absolutely critical point on consistency and lifestyle. But before anyone rushes out to buy all these things, we have to talk about safety. This is maybe the most important part of any deep dive like this.
Couldn't agree more. Rule number one, always, always, always talk to your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional before starting any new supplement regimen. This isn't just boilerplate advice. It's essential for personalized guidance, especially checking for potential interactions with any prescription medications you might be taking. That's crucial.
Right. And what are some specific cautions related to these cortisol managing supplements that people should be aware of?
Well, first, certain medical conditions are contraindications. A really important one mentioned in the sources concerns thyroid disorders. People with thyroid issues need to be particularly careful with adaptogens like ashwagandha, as there's some evidence it could potentially influence thyroid hormone levels. So professional guidance is a must there. Also, even generally safe compounds need to be used correctly. Taking very high doses of magnesium, for example, is well known to cause digestive upset, like diarrhea. More isn't always better. And circling back to your earlier question about tolerance and long-term use. For adaptogens especially, the sources often suggest considering cycling. That means taking them for a period, say a few months, and then taking a break for a few weeks. This might help prevent your body from adapting too much and could maintain the supplement's effectiveness over the long haul. Think of them as tools to help restore balance, not necessarily something you need to take every single day indefinitely.
Okay, great advice. Cycle them. Don't overdo doses, and definitely check with a pro first, especially with existing conditions like thyroid issues. All right, let's do a quick recap then. The heavy hitters we covered for tackling chronic stress by targeting cortisol seem to be ashwagandha and rhodiola for that HPA axis modulation.
Right, then magnesium for its direct calming effect on the nervous system.
Omega-3s for fighting inflammation and supporting brain health.
And vitamin C for specific adrenal support and antioxidant action.
Okay, so pulling all this together, understanding these supplements and how the HPA axis works, it gives you a kind of roadmap, doesn't it?
It does. It provides a framework.
Yeah.
But, achieving that real sustainable balance, that requires actually walking the path, implementing changes across the board. The goal isn't just to, pop some pills. It's hopefully using these tools strategically to create the mental and physiological space needed for those healthier habits. Better sleep, better diet, movement to actually stick.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually leads perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to take away today. We've established that consistency and those foundational lifestyle factors, especially sleep and diet, are absolutely non-negotiable for effectively managing cortisol long term. So knowing what we now know about the inner workings of the HPA axis, about the real biological calming effects of some of these supplements, here's the question. How can you use this deeper understanding of your own internal mechanics, your own biology, to actually reinforce those vital daily habits? How can you make those long-term lifestyle changes feel less like a constant battle of willpower and more like, just responding to a biological necessity, something to think about, how to make biology work for your discipline, not against it? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into regulating your body's stress response. We hope you found it valuable.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.